Hello and welcome. I'm Cher, the Shadow Walker, and I'm taking a look at cryptids over the last 48 hours in central Canada and the northeastern regions of the United States. It was starting with Quebec in the Par de Chute area at 1:45 a.m. on April 2nd. A lone hiker who set up a late night primitive camp witnessed soul reading encounter, a massive canine headed humanoid that stood at the edge of the firelight, remaining perfectly still for nearly 3 minutes. The hiker described a feeling of complete mental paralysis while the creature stared. It eventually turned and retreated into the dense forest with a heavy bipedal gait, and it was reported to the Dogman 2026 file and to the Quebec records case. And in the Chic-Choc Mountains, a Bigfoot was sighted in the Gaspésie region at dusk on April 1st at 7:30 p.m. A local resident whose family has lived in the region for generations, probably one of my relatives, a witness observed a tall, dark-haired figure moving along the ridge line above the trees. The creature above the tree line, sorry. The creature was seen gliding guiding a small herd of deer away from a steep ravine. It emitted a series of whistling like vocalizations that were caught on mobile phone devices but were distorted by static. And it was reported to the Quebec Gaspé Division of Cryptid Files. And the spider humanoid in the James Bay region at 11 p.m. on March 31st, two remote workers in an industrial site. They reported a pale multi-joint entity scuttering across a metal surface rafters of an outdoor equipment shed. The creature appeared to have a translucent skin and moved with rapid jittery motion that made it difficult to track by the human eye. And they reported it to the Northern Quebec cryptid file. And a hellhound in the eastern township near Lake Membergog, not sure where that is. At midnight on April 1st, a security guard patrolling a private estate, a massive black jet canine with smoldering orange eyes, was seen sitting near the shoreline. The guard reported that the creature left no physical footprints in the sand, even though it had appeared to have a significant mass. It vanished into the water without making a splash, and it was reported to the National Hellhounds file. And there was a Mothman in the Montgomery area of near Quebec City, Montgomery Falls. At 10:15 p.m. on April 1st, several tourists on an observation deck witnessed a large black figure with a wingspan exceeding 10 feet that was seen gliding through the mist of the falls. Witnesses noted glowing red pinpoint eyes. The creature hovered briefly above the suspension bridge before banking sharply towards the St. Lawrence River, and it was reported to the Atlantic Digital Scanners. In Ontario, over the last 48 hours, cryptids in Algonquin Avenue near North Bay at 3:45 on April the 2nd, and that's a.m., a night shift nurse returning home from work witnessed a reporting soul reading encounter with a massive wolf-headed humanoid standing near the road. She described its eyes as abnormally large and felt an intense sensation that the creature could read every secret she was hiding in her soul. It remained motionless before retreating into the shadows of the nearby trail system, and it was reported to the Dogman 2026 file in Canada. And a Sasquatch in the rural northern Ontario, 30-kilometer radius of North Bay. So this is just past North Bay. At dusk at 7:50 on April the 1st p.m., a local resident on their own property witnessed reported hearing unthinkable vocalizations followed by heavy wood knocks. They observed a large bipedal hairy figure roughly 8 feet tall moving through the dense brush. The creature appeared to be observing the house before moving deeper into the rocky terrain, and it was reported to the Ontario Cryptid File. And a spider humanoid in an abandoned industrial site in Sudbury, Ontario, At 11:15 p.m. on March 31st. Two urban explorers, they reported a pale, spindly entity with too many joints moving across the ceiling of an old warehouse. The creature moved with a glitchy, rapid motion and appeared to teleport between beams. It vanished into the high level vent when spotted, and they reported it to the Cryptids Ontario section file. And a Mothman in the Lake Simcoe Kempenfelt Bay area, so that's down towards Barrie, Ontario, um, at 10:30 p.m. on April 1st, a fisherman packing up for the night, a large dark-winged figure with a wingspan of roughly 10 feet was seen gliding over the water. The witness noticed glowing red pinpoint eyes. The entity made no sound and appeared to be tracking something beneath the surface of the lake before banking sharply off to the shoreline. And they reported it to the Ontario Cryptids. In Michigan, over the last 48 hours, a dogman near Manistee River State Game Area near the Wexford County area. At 3:45 on April the 2nd, a local resident living near the river basin, the witness reported being awoken by a howl that sounded like a human scream. Upon looking out the window, they saw a 7-foot bipedal canine with amber eyes standing behind a parked vehicle. The creature reportedly clapped its paws together in a mocking gesture before sprinting into the heavy timber on two legs, and it was reported to the Michigan Dogman File and the Great Lakes Cryptid Society. And a Bigfoot in Manistee National Forest near Milo. On April the 1st at 10:30 p.m., two turkey hunters scouting a remote area for the upcoming season. They observed a massive figure standing approximately 8 feet tall, covered in hair. That they said was like a reddish brown in color, but dark. The creature was seen breaking branches, snapping large limbs systematically. It moved parallel to their deep trail before emitting a deep guttural sound, and they reported it to the Bigfoot Society. The state of New York and Wappingers Falls, Milan, Dutchess County area, on April the 1st at 10:45 p.m. Local researchers tracking fresh prints in the late slush snow. While the physical creature remained in the shadows, researchers documented a series of aggressive wood knocks, deep guttural rural sounds that paralyzed the nearby canine unit. A 16-inch track with a clear mid-tarsal break was found near a freshly snapped sapling, and they reported it to the Bigfoot researchers of the Hudson Valley. And in Sterling Forest State Park, Orange County area, at 3:20 a.m. on April the 2nd, a night shift park maintenance worker clearing down limbs. The witness reported a wolf-headed humanoid standing over 7 feet tall near the iron mill ruins. It was seen soul-reading gaze at the ridge of the statue that was posed there with glowing amber eyes, and it was fixed on the worker. So he really felt this intensity. The witness noticed the creature's chest was unnaturally broad and its fur looked like a matted charcoal. It departed by leaping a 12-foot stone wall without using its hands, and they reported it to the Dogman Project's national sighting in New York. And in Bear Mountain Bridge near Rockland area, at 11:05 on March 31st, a commuter traveling towards Anthony's Nose saw a large soot-colored entity with a massive wingspan that was perched on a bridge suspension cables. The witness described tennis ball-sized red eyes that did not reflect light but seemed to generate it. The creature dropped from the cables and glided over the Hudson River before disappearing into the mist of the Highlands, and they reported it to the Atlantic Digital Scanners. And in Rochester, near an abandoned subway tunnel, At 9:30 p.m. on April 1st, and these are urban explorers, they encountered a pale, multi-jointed figure scaling the graffiti-covered concrete walls. It moved with a jittery frame skipping motion. When spotted, it emitted a high-pitched click that sounded like and retreated, and it sounded like a click, click, click sound. And it went right into the ventilation shafts where no human could fit through. And they reported it to the Cryptid New York section file. And there was a hellhound in Pine Barrens in Suffolk County, Long Island. At midnight on April the 1st, a local resident whose car stalled on a on a secluded back road, spotted a massive black ink dog with smoldering orange eyes was seen standing in the middle of the road. The witness reported a sudden overwhelming smell of sulfur and ozone. The car's electronics flickered and died. The hound stood up, looked through the windshield for several seconds, and simply dissolved into the surrounding darkness. And it was reported to the National Hellhound File. I would love to follow up with that person to see if he had any issues afterwards, because I think they'll have health issues. In Pennsylvania state, over the last 48 hours, a Bigfoot was sighted near Clearfield County at 9:30 p.m. on April 1st. A hunter returning from a scouting trip with his adult son. They observed two large bipedal figures, one approximately 8 feet tall and one smaller, around 7 feet tall, crossing an open field. The creatures moved with a fluid glide gait that seemed too fast for their size. When the witnesses shone the spotlight towards them, the large creature emitted a terrifying multi-tone scream that felt like a vibrated in the air around them. And they reported it to the National Sighting / Clearfield Trackers. And a dog man in Forbes State Forest near the Laurel Mountain at 2:15 a.m. on April the 2nd, a long-distance trucker pulled over in a designated rest area. The witness was awoken by a rhythmic thumping against the side of his trailer. Looking out the side mirror, they saw a wolf-headed humanoid standing on its hind legs, reaching upward to the top of the trailer. It had amber eyes and pointed upright ears. It dropped to all fours and sprinted into the tree line as soon as the driver started the engine, and they reported it to the Dogman 2026 file / Pennsylvania State Forestry sighting log. And in Vermont, over the last 48 hours, in the Bennington area near the Long Trail at 6:40 p.m. on April the 1st, a solo hiker finishing a day trip segment, the witness reported a massive bipedal creature covered in thick charcoal colored hair. It was seen standing near the granite outcropping. The hiker stopped. The creature emitted a chest thumping growl that caused physical vibrations in the witness's sternum. It then stepped behind a large spruce and simply vanished, leaving behind a 16-inch footprint in the melting slush. And they reported it to the Northern New England Sightings log. And in rural Addison, a dog man was spotted in the rural Addison County near Otter Creek Basin at 2:15 a.m. on April the 2nd. A night shift security officer at a local facility. The officer observed a wolf-headed figure standing on its hind legs near the perimeter fence. It was described as having athletic human build with pointed ears and glowing yellow eyes. The creature was seen digging at the base of the fence post with long claws fingers before scaling an 8-foot chain link with one fluid motion and disappearing into the marsh. In New Hampshire, over the last 48 hours, a Bigfoot was sighted in the White Mountain National Forest near Lincoln at approximately 7:50 p.m. on April the 1st, so at dusk. A seasonal campground owner checking the property boundaries. witnessed a 7-foot giant hairy humanoid crossing a back road in 2 strides. They described the creature as ape-like but intelligent. Outlined with reddish-brown fur, it stepped into the tree line where the visibility was clear for 100 feet, and yet seemingly vanished instantly when the witness reached the spot, and they reported it to the National Sightings / Bigfoot log sightings. And on Highway Route 112 at 2:15, a.m. in the morning on April the 2nd, a night shift worker commuting through the pass. A massive wolf-headed figure was seen standing on the granite overlook. As the car's high beams hit it, the creature didn't flee. It crouched into a predatory posture. The witness felt an overwhelming sense of primal dread and a soul-reading focus. It eventually leapt down from the rock embankment with a speed that no natural wolf could sustain. And they reported it to the Dogman 2026 Northeast Digital Scanners. And a Mothman in the Manchester area. At 10:30 p.m. near the falls on March 31st, multiple reports from pedestrians near the river. A large dark entity with wings estimated 10 to 12 feet was seen perched on a brick mill building. It possessed blazing red eyes that were visible from across the river. The creature took flight silently, banking towards the south and appearing to glide without mechanical or bird-like flapping. And they reported it to the Atlantic Digital Scanners. And a spider humanoid in the industrial area in Nashka at 9:45 p.m. on April the 1st, a security personnel monitoring a remote camera feeds. Pale, spindly figure with multiple limbs was seen scaling a sheer concrete wall at an angle impossible for humans. The movement was described as jittery or skipping the frames, moving from the ground to the third-story window in under 4 seconds. And they reported it to the Cryptid file, the New Hampshire section. And Hellhelm in Val N Cemetery in Wilton. At midnight on April 1st, a local paranormal investigator was on a sanctioned night watch and witnessed an ink-black canine, larger than a Great Dane, was seen sitting near a historic headstone. Its eyes gave off a dull orange smolder. The investigator noted that while the ground was soft from the spring thaw, the creature left no physical imprints or tracks when it eventually faded into the fog. They reported it to the National Hellhound File. And that is it for Central Canada and the northeastern region of the United States. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate your time. Happy Easter. Have a wonderful weekend. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.